Hi, everybody. Welcome to the launch party for our spring issue 7-4. I can't believe that we have just concluded 7 years of publishing Chestnut Review. I was not here from the beginning. I believe the first issue I worked on was maybe two, maybe two, three, but that was so long ago, and I can't believe it because it feels like yesterday. So we're really happy to be rounding out our volume 7 with all of you. Um, and of course, in our issue, we have so many more beautiful and wonderful things to share with you. We actually have two chapbook authors this time, Kate Garcia, whose chapbook will be out in early May, so just around the corner, and Jad Josie, whose chapbook came out in March. So please check them out. We also have a great selection of visual artists. Sometimes our visual artists come to present and they read their artist statement, but this time we did not sadly have any visual art signups. So please check those things out. We have a gorgeous cover. I believe that we have at least maybe one repeat artist, which is always exciting. And it's always great to see people kind of coming back and republishing with us. So you are all on a 2-year lockout from Chestnut because you've been published. But when we come around and read for, God forbid, 9-4, you can feel free to submit again. We love seeing people come back and also to get involved in the community in various ways. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first reader, who's reading Someone Like Tiffany. So this is Tina Kapoussis.
Hi, guys. Righty, here we go. I'm just going to start from the beginning so that I don't have to explain anything. The brochure for Clinton Community College pictures an Asian girl happily pushing her friend in a wheelchair through a tree-lined campus. Tiffany's never had an Asian friend or a wheelchair friend. No friends at all, really. Maybe she'll meet new people like them on campus. She handles the application carefully. Her hot Cheeto munchie mixed with anxiety makes her sweat. She accidentally smears a cheese dust fingerprint onto the Asian girl's face. Ugh, rubbing at the cheese print only makes it worse. Idiot! And what the hell are you so happy about anyway? She says, turning her anger towards the girl in the brochure. Look at you with your books and your dumb backpack and your coffee. Her phone pings. A text from her aunt, Lisa. Did you make that vision board yet? Make today a great day. It's up to you. Ugh, God. She redirects her hatred onto Aunt Lisa. Vision board, whatever. Next, she'll be asking about that juicer she Amazon Tiffany for Christmas. It's still in the garage, unopened. I'm sorry, she says to the girl on the brochure. I just get so mad sometimes. Or most of the time, like 5 minutes ago when her toenail snagged a hole in her sock. She fills out all the easy stuff in the application, but trips up on her social security number. She can never memorize that stupid number or remember to write it down. She'll have to ask her grandma, and Granny will definitely be a jerk about cooperating. The last time Tiffany asked for her social was to secretly apply for a Kohl's credit card. Tiffany! How many damn pairs of thongs did you buy? Granny said in her irritating West Virginia hillbilly twang when she opened the bill. And who are you wearing thongs for? Them's the kind of underwear streetwalkers wear. The door to her grandma's room is closed. Oh, God, it's coffee and Fig Newton time. She barges in without knocking. She'll get yelled at, but whatever. That's nothing new. Granny gnaws on a Newton while talking on the phone. She gives Tiffany the I'm on the phone, get out of here hand motion. Ignoring her, Tiffany wildly digs through her Granny's nightstand for the notebook where she keeps all of her important stuff. Well, that's what they said, Lisa, Granny says into the phone, swatting Tiffany's hand away from the drawer. Annoying Aunt Lisa is Granny's daughter. It all makes sense now. For 29 years, I've had to bear the burden of this child. Granny moans in her woe is me voice to Lisa. 29 years. Granny must be complaining about Tiffany, like she's been doing for 29 years, ever since she rescued Tiffany from an apartment fire. God love you, your itty jammies all covered in soot, and there lay your mother, passed out with a needle in her arm. Tiffany never lived with her mom again. She accidentally knocks Granny's coffee, sloshing it onto the table. Damn it, Tiffany, I'm on the phone, her grandma barks, wiping the mess with a rag. Well, people always have a rag handy for some reason. Ken, Granny's puffy Pomeranian, butts in, also barking because his nap has been disturbed. Oh, look what you done. You got Ken all riled up. Ken stares Tiffany down, yipping like, yeah, look, I'm all riled up. I need my social security number. Get out of here, Tiffany. Granny gently strokes Ken. Hush now, little feller. He doesn't. Shut up, Ken! Tiffany yells at the tiny fluff ball. As she stomps out of the room, she flips on the light switches and exiting FU. Granny likes her room dark with the only light flickering from the TV. Tiffany, turn that light out! She doesn't. It's the little ones. She settles onto her bed and fills out what she can for now in the application. So many courses, though. How did Brittany, of all people, do this? Brittany and Tiffany went to high school together. She saw her on TikTok dancing in a G string, saying she's quitting her job at Jumbo's, the grossest of the Metro Detroit strip clubs, and taking classes at Clinton Valley because she's about to turn 30 and is done being dirty. The video ended with her in a turtleneck and oversized fake glasses, reading a book but still giving off slut vibes like a sexy librarian. Tiffany is also about to turn 30, but she ain't dirty like Brittany. Anytime she got to feeling down about herself, she could always say, "At least I'm not Brittany." Now she doesn't even have that. Damn, time for a cup of coffee. She doesn't even like coffee, but it feels like a grown-up move, like she's really getting down to business. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. What a glorious reading. The voice is really coming alive. The dialogue and the text, that's just wonderful. All right. So next up we have Donna Barrere with The Horse in Glumbar.
Thank you. Here we go. The horse in Glaumber. You should still go, everyone said. So I am here, among the turf houses and the horses. Here, I say, as I offer the horse some grass over a fence before pulling back to avoid his teeth. Though calm and small and beautiful, his ample mane soft swooped, he is a beast over which I hold no dominion. I walk to the car, and exhaustion tugs at my eyelids, rain threatening from over the cliffs, the birds loud with song or warning. It has been 2 weeks since my mother died. The road lulls me to sleep as my husband drives. I dream that the horse bites my hands. The bite bleeds rivers that spread across the fields of purple lupins, separating me from my mother, who calls my name from among the flowers. I wake, startled and without her. Outside the window, the wool of the sheep, huddled in the green against the coming storm, is the same dirty white as my mother's hair.
What a great ending image. Thank you so much for that reading. Um, Next up is Haley Klinn, Ego Death After a One Night Stand.
Hi, everybody. So this is ego death after a one night stand. You wake up and see a eulogy in the mirror, glass leaning lonely against a bare wall, but you don't cry or lick your lips in pain, even with the long knife of mourning coming through, a window framed in beige and paint peeling away from the sill. You collect clothes from the floor and you dress, without noise, because ghosts are silent and last night you died. Laughed as it happened, as he taught you how to be the right kind of body, one he could sink thumbs into, rest a crop circle upon, build a pyre over. You drank wine and pushed into the crowd like you wanted it, like you hoped for the crush to take you in its arms. Halfway to manic and kicking out at the dark when he bit your wrist, pulled it between his white strobed teeth, and said you tasted the way falling in a dream felt. So how could you not when he asked for you to follow him home? The man is still dreaming, still a beautiful weapon, his shaved neck, his sticky shoulders, his body turned away. In another lifetime, you might have loved him, or believed you did, this man with nothing on his walls. But you are 22 and you are vapor, becoming diffuse and certain that this is a good thing, that this is holy.
Thank you so much. What a fantastic reading. Great poem. Um, all right, next up is Sarah Juma with Transformer.
Hi, everybody. Here we go. Buddy always texts back if he cannot answer, and he has not. To block my mind from veering into imagine worst case scenarios, I joined my assistant Nanfe in placing LED tea lights, not real candles, because, handsy children, in clusters spaced exactly 3 inches away from each other on the tables. She notices that I'm fighting to slow my heartbeat, and she tries to joke. I thought Bare would be the first one here. The kinds of mothers coming for this birthday, eh? Tips choke. She demonstrates spraying thick, invisible bundles of money with her 2 hands. I'm still too stressed to laugh or put two and two together, but I vaguely remember that she's told me a rumor before. That one time, when he played Batman, he did not close the guest bathroom door fully as he changed into the costume. And the mother of the house, or a random adult female guest, saw something she shouldn't have. But she didn't complain and was actually titillated, and that she asked him about what else he could do. And since then, a few mothers asked for him by name specifically. They found ways for a mascotted character to fit into their events, even if it was a friend's breakfast at Tiffany's themed bridal shower. Before Nanface spilled, I had always thought the reason Bade was a go-to was because of his build, which could take on anything, silicone, plastic, brass, if needed, and his extraordinary talent to mimic the voice of any character, even if the character's accent was Irish, even if it was a minion who did not speak a human language. I call Bade's boss, the owner of the mascot rental company, to ask where he is. And he says that if I'm so pressed for time, he can send an alternate, though Bade would pay severely for his unresponsiveness. He sends me the catalog of other performers via WhatsApp. They are all women, save for one, and they look so lanky that I wonder if he bites into their own cuts of the payment and they do not feed well because of this. And it doesn't matter, even if one of the other performers would do. Bade, wherever he is, has the company's only Optimus Prime costume. I call other companies, even though I do not trust them, having never worked with them before, but the extent of their service catalog is Disney princesses, with the occasional Mickey and Winnie the Pooh sprinkled in. One owner tries to sell her Marcus so badly she touts, "We have Elsa, brand new. You will love her." I said Transformers. I stressed through gritted teeth, rolling my eyes. And that's it.
Oh my God, such a great piece. Thank you so much for the reading. Really brought that to life. All right. So next up, we have a piece by Hilaru Ali Musa that's going to be read by Praise. This is a longer prose piece, if I remember correctly, so I'm not, yeah, so you can use your judgment, Praise, but thank you so much for stepping in. Yes.
Thanks, Maria. Um, that was a great reading, Sarah. I don't know. It's nice to finally meet you. I mean, in online because I've not. I don't. So I'll be reading 3 Doors Away by Aliru. It's kind of like sectioned, so it makes it a little bit easier to just go through. So I'm just gonna read like two sections from the first one. Mama Chidi heard the Okada engine caught at the gate, but she stayed in the kitchen, her hands in the basin, finishing the beans she was baking. She heard his footsteps. She counted to 10 before opening the door. Chidi was thinner. The scar above his eyes was new, and there was gray at his temples that hadn't been there before, though he was only 31. He had a mouth. She'd always known it, the same downward set at the corners that other people read as severity. His father's height, his father's long jaw, but the mouth, hers, and now this new hollowness beneath the cheekbones that belonged to neither of them. The hands were the same as they'd always been, a father's hand reborn, wide palmed, the fingers slightly too long. She looked at them, holding the Ghana must go bag, and felt something cold move through her chest. Mama, she let him in. His prison clothes smelled like institutional carbolic soap and male bodies packed close. She told him to put them in the basin outside. Later, after dark, she would burn them. There were things water could not clean. She asked as if hungry. When he said yes, she felt relieved. Hunger was a problem she could solve. The compound learned about Chidi the way compounds learn everything, through laundry hung to dry, through children's questions, through the quality of silence when he crossed the courtyard. By Friday, Yashegun had rearranged the table so Chidi would have to ask for cigarettes instead of pointing. By Saturday, the children moved their goalpost away from Mama Chidi's door. Nobody told them to, but they felt the shape of adult fear and stepped around it. Only one child ever came near, a boy who fetched water with his grandmother every morning. He had his father's eyes, the same white set placement, like someone perpetually startled. His grandmother was Mama Binga. She lived 3 doors away, 3 doors down. Mama Chidi had seen the photograph once, a few years ago, before Chidi's arrest. A young man in a wedding shirt grinning, the same eyes as the boy. She knew other things, the markets, the argument over change, how quickly a man could die when his head met concrete at the right angle. She knew because Chidi had told her once in the visiting room, leaning close, his voice barely above a whisper. It was fast. I don't think he suffered, as if that mattered, as if speed was mercy. I'm going to stop there.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is a wonderful piece. So just like our
What,
long
while,
prose piece.
sorry,
Yes.
while reading it, I'm just like, this is very poetic,
Yeah.
it's very poetic, rhythmic and poetic.
Yes. So definitely worth taking a look at the rest. And last but not least, we have Chip Hauser, to Eddie wondering why.
Okay. Of course, I lost what I was reading. Here we go. To Eddie, wondering why. Sometimes I'm still 9 years old, lying in the park under the honeysuckle bush, wondering why the stranger wants to show us the maneuver he says all the doctors are using now. Wondering what it fixes. Wondering if the doctors take off their white coats or just their pants like him. Wondering what it looks like to you, standing there watching him move on top of me. Wondering if you're scared because you're perfectly still, wide-eyed, and we were just two kids out exploring the neighborhood. Wondering if you smelled honeysuckle or the musky stranger. Wondering why you don't talk to me after, why we aren't friends anymore, but knowing why. Wondering why you start causing trouble, why you end up in prison. If it's you causing the trouble, or if the trouble keeps finding you like it found us in the park. Wondering if you think about any of this. Wondering, but knowing. Wondering why the stranger, his maneuver, would haunt you, but not me. Wondering why what I can't forget is the petrified look on your face. Wondering why I want you to know I'm okay, really. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Wondering if you're okay, wanting you to be okay too, but knowing somehow you're not. Wondering if one day you'll write back, but knowing you won't. Wondering if I'd been in your place and you in mine, would your life be different and mine full of trouble? Wondering why we didn't say no, why I didn't just say no. Wondering if I had said no, would we both have turned out okay? Wondering, but knowing, yes, 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 we would have. And I'm just so sorry.
Just incredible. Thank you so much for the reading. Yeah, yeah, it was, yes, I agree. The repetition was just, it hit so hard. All right. Well, thank you all for reading. Thank you for being here. We're going to seg into our second half of the launch. So if you have questions or comments for other people, please feel free to unmute and ask. And that can also include questions about Chestnut and about our process as well.
I have a quick question. I've noticed just from the people reading today, and I'm working my way through the rest of the issue, there is this kind of through line of otherness, or kind of this detaching of the self from reality, kind of looking back at something or becoming someone else. When you're putting an issue together, because I'm an editor as well, just I'm curious, when you're putting an issue together and you've chosen a few things, do you then um, look for those through lines, or do you think they just kind of happen organically?
I think this is a genre ed question.
I can take a shot at the answer. I apologize. I've had really bad allergies, so my throat is scratchy. Um, I feel like we normally don't look for through lines, and the through lines kind of find us. That we do not. It's not really part of our discussion in the shortlist meetings of like thematic through lines or cohesion, but it does keep happening. I remember talking to Maria about a lot of stories and poems we have about motherhood and identity around motherhood. So we're not, I think you have a good observation. There is a lot of through lines around identity and detachment, but it's not something that is a major part of our conversation shortlist meetings. We're mostly looking for pieces that feel that they've really matured and gotten to a point where they feel developed and kind of fully actualized. And a lot of times there are themes, but it's not something that we are um, really looking for when we're picking pieces.
I will say, because I've been doing the launch parties for what seems like forever, one of the biggest surprises is that poetry and prose don't talk to each other at all. Right, so prose handles our fiction and CNF, both short and long form, and poetry obviously handles our poetry. And so we come to these launch parties and we haven't necessarily communicated at all about what the other side is publishing, but then there are these points of contact or these interesting things that happen that come up. So it's always a surprise to see that when putting the issue together, like in InDesign or on the web, and or to see the end result as being something that is partly of chance, partly of good curation and attention and editing, and also partly because of the hard work and wonderful creative efforts of all of our contributors, including you.
I also wanted to add that when you work with people long enough, you kind of rub on each other. So maybe there's some magical through line thinking in our mind that selects these pieces where they link together. I think we're talking about it because when we wanted to accept pieces for the next issue, about how there's always some like link between the pieces, and it always turns out to be good. And it's interesting that it stretches also into poetry. Like Maria said, we don't exactly talk to each other. So maybe we have all developed an interesting taste.
Yeah, I definitely think that can happen. We kind of know each other's like, oh, Praise is gonna love this piece, or he's gonna advocate for that, or like, oh, I know that Luke is just gonna love this poem. But it's not like we don't talk to each other ever. It's just that we don't talk about the creative work that we're accepting. Um, yeah, because we all talk to each other, I promise.
I don't know if this is the appropriate forum to say this, but um, I published a fair amount of stuff. It's mostly speculative, but um, this is the first piece of like creative nonfiction I published, and it was obviously from the content challenging for me to present it, and I was amazed at how considerate, careful, thoughtful, gentle that the editor that I worked with was in treating that, and not and that of course, right, the sensitivity, but more so the editorial process itself, especially for a piece which in my case was like 300 words, less than that. Um, Unbelievable editorial attention, and I've never had anything even remotely like that. So I wanted to say that, and I hope that other folks have had a similar experience because it was pretty spectacular.
I'm so glad to hear that. That is our hope throughout to offer, really careful attention and thought, to not take over and write the piece because we're not in charge, but to really help tease out the things that we love about it when we accept it, um, and everything that our readers and our staff kind of see in it. We couldn't do this without everybody who volunteers here. I know we have a small slice of our staff here, but I mean, we've got what, like 70, 80 people working to make Chestnut what it is. And without those people, the editors wouldn't have the time to give the attention to the work. But also the comments of the readers and the people who comment on our shortlisted pieces, they are hugely important in the editorial process. Yes, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. All right. Well, I've got a question for Tina. Um, your piece really portrays somebody who is clearly has a lot of overall circumstances going on, right? Where it seems like life is kind of against her. And then there's all these sort of what I would consider like these negative influences. And there's like positive things in the relationships, right? I mean, like she's being raised by the granny. So it's not wholly negative. But I wonder how to sustain a piece with such an acerbic tone, with a narrator who's kind of learned to because I feel like Tiffany has learned like to be cynical and to lower expectations, based on, the things around her, the relationships that she has, and like where she is in her life right now. Um, and I just want to know a little bit more about like how you positioned that and where this piece kind of came from, but then also how you veered it in a direction where it felt like it was bringing up new insights despite this sort of overall negativity. Because a lot of the time, I think in the queue, sometimes when we read pieces like this, we're like, man, I don't feel good. But yeah, you know what I mean? Yes.
Yes, no, I mean it's just humor. Like I write a lot from personal experiences. This was based off of a family experience. Granny is my mom. That is my mom. And, Tiffany is a family member, loosely based, but I also inserted some of myself in there and how I felt growing up with my mom. And my coping mechanism was always humor. Ask my therapist. She will tell you. But it's like that you can't go into the dark without bringing a light, right? Because if it was just, oh my God, what a horrible, dark, just dark place this would be. My goal is always to I guess I always have, there's always a lot of, there's so many outlandish stories in my family, right? And when I tell people these stories, they're like, that's not true. That can't possibly be true. But if you like spin it with warmth, right? And you find the compassion and the love underneath, because there is a lot, right? Like even, Granny's not just this like abusive person to Tiffany. Because that, oh my God, that would be awful. I mean, Tiffany's equally as abusive to her, right? So they have this like back and forth, but underneath there is some like warmth, right? So did I answer your question? Did I?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's definitely something, what I hear a lot from like CNF and memoirists is how do I write about this person, or how do I, publicly say, hey, this was this relationship. And so I think this is an inspiring example of like how to translate those things into fiction, but then also really draw from things that felt authentic and cuttingly real, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna add to hi Tina.
I
Um
think
I'm sorry we missed each other at AWP. Yeah.
I know like several times.
Yeah, maybe yeah, probably next year we'll probably
Yes.
see. So yeah, obviously I edited your piece and it was an interesting process and um now, hearing you read it and like with the different voices was really good. So I can definitely understand like there being like life experience to it. And the story, I'm glad like you talked about like balancing because it kind of reminded me of like CNF when I first read it because it felt like and in CNF, we always talk about trying to balance like the seriousness with some levity, like humor. And I think like that's something that was done right in this piece, which I think I appreciate that what made it a standout for us, like talking about serious things about manipulation, but still using like humor and some levity and not letting the audience or the narrator get carried away. So I think you did great with that. I just wanted to say that. And Yeah, I wanted to ask Sarah a question about Transformers. I think I've come across a lot of Nigerian stories like in the queue, and I mean, Maria can talk about how we always get some kind of like longing and stories from Nigerian writers, and it was interesting to receive one that was about like about working and not just working, but specifically like events planning because I think that I don't think that's a very I don't think that's a common like should I say like narrative mechanism like I've seen. I don't think I've seen everyone written a story about like events planning. I mean I've not necessarily seen a lot of workplace story from Nigerian writers. So I kind of wonder what inspired you to write this exactly. Optimus Prime. So honestly, it was striking to see such a story from like so I was wondering what inspired it, like the events planning, also the Transformers, like how you were able to balance it, like what were the inspiration for this piece?
I love that question, and hopefully my internet doesn't like make me glitch. I always write about labor and class and like how when you put money on the table, you can like stress test someone's dignity. And where does that obsession come from? I don't know. I feel like I've been fixated since I was a kid. Like I just like, I'm like very much a social science student through and through. Like did economics in college, somehow ended up on Wall Street, even though I do not like numbers. So I like, just to interrogate like what it means to be a worker, like, and events, as you know, is like a big thing for the Nigerian society. Like we could be in the worst economic situation possible and people would still be partying. So that to me it was just rich, but I was like, where do I even go with this? Should this be a wedding planner? But then a kid's party was so ripe for me because, first like half of my life was in Nigeria and like I feel like kids' parties are if you were an anthropologist, there's so much you would learn about class just by watching kids because they don't even know sometimes like how classist they can be by like, but then they're just echoing what they've seen from their parents. So it looks so um funny is not the word I'm looking for, but like it's just rich for drama and that's where I like attack all my stories. Like what would be very, very dramatic and it's this adult who is now trying to help these kids live their dreams, like dreams that she didn't have, and then she's answering to these very demanding adults who are just like blissfully oblivious of what she and her staff members are going through and yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, but it could have gone different ways, but I settled on like a kid's party because I thought it was just gonna be. And then for the Optimus costume, what was my inspiration? I knew that I wanted it to be like an absurd, like a very big costume that like would be insane on a small like female body frame. It could have been Hulk, but I think, yeah, like Transformers also thematically, like what they represent, the Autobots versus the Decepticons, I think like helped me decide, So
That's good. I mean, obviously, I've seen Transformers, so it was nice, like, to see that, to see you use that in a Nigerian context. So yeah, thank you for writing the story and submitting it to us.
I have a question for Chip. Uh, Chip, your piece is incredibly moving, and every time I read it and reread it, my heart just kind of aches more and more. Um, I wonder, I know that in your author's statement, you mentioned that it came out during an exercise that you had at a retreat. And I'm wondering, because I'm unfamiliar with some of your other work, did this surprise you when the topic came up at the retreat, or is this something that you've grappled with in your writing before? Um, and I just wanted to kind of hear what your process was on such a kind of a beautiful and gut-wrenching piece and situation.
Oh, well, thank you. So no, I mean, this was like that event happened maybe 50 years ago. It's the same year that Star Wars came out, whatever that was, 77 or 78. Um, and just not to belabor it, but because I was a boy in the Midwest of America in that time frame, there was nothing said to me by my parents, and we were kind of lower middle class. There was no warnings about sexual predators, so I just didn't know. And then I never said anything to my parents. I don't even told them until I was in my 20s. So the good news there is that I didn't know the reaction I should have had at the time. It was strange and not great, but I just didn't know, right? I was what prepubescent. I was 8 or 9 years old or something. And so I've not had a terrible struggle with this event in my life, like a lot of people I know have had with similar experiences. So I feel very grateful for that. So I think about it every few years. And then this writing prompt came. No, I had not written about it before because I just either I'm repressing it or, you know, there's all sorts of reasons for that. But um, I'm really not good at writing immediately to prompts usually. And in this case, um, I wrote the entire thing in about 3 minutes. Um, and most of what is in the final version was in that draft. And it was like stunning to me that that had just happened. So obviously I'm processing it in ways that I'm not conscious about. Um, but it is weird that, like, for me, it's not so much about the physical act or the effect it had on me. It was that because of the positioning of events, I could see my friend's face, and that was the part that was hardest for me because he really bad stuff happen to him afterwards. And I just always wondered, God, was that the thing that triggered it? Or like, was he, I just don't know. So, and I have no contact with him, and I'm really hope he never reads this because he's kind of violent and I don't want that coming back my way. But I did change the name because I'm super clever. Did that answer your question? I feel kind of weird talking about it. So,
No, I appreciate that. I know it's a vulnerable, topic, and I was always curious about the writing process and what brought you to it and what brought you to that style and what brought you to that work. So I really appreciate it, Chip. Thank you so much.
of course.
I had a question for Donna. In the queue, when we were looking at your poem, a lot of readers and editors loved your ending and loved the closure that it gave to the poem. So I'm curious, in your creative process, how do you find your endings, and how do you know that you found it, and what helps you arrive at these endings?
Thank you for that. I think with this piece in particular, it's interesting that you mentioned the ending because I hesitated to submit this poem for quite a long time because all the feedback I was getting was that the sheep at the end should come out because they weren't the horse. And I knew that that wasn't right, But I thought, well, if all these people are saying, you know how you get when people give you feedback and people you trust, um, I just was doubting it for the longest time. And for this piece, I think I also find it for endings for me, I have a tendency to want things to end neatly, which I have to work against in my writing. I don't know if because I was a middle school teacher for years or, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Like, I want everything packaged up, in a neat little bow. Um, and I have to actively work against that. And I've been pushing toward some kind of leap or a little bit more strangeness with an ending or kind of lopping off my ending tendencies to shorten the poems to end it somewhere else. Um, and that seems to work best for me in terms of getting to a place where everything's cohesive, but not where I'm not telling the reader how to feel at the end, where I'm leaving it more open-ended. And this piece also, I think I doubted this piece a little bit as well because I do travel a lot, but I don't often write about travel because I feel like that's a type of privilege that a lot of people don't have. Writing about, somebody else's space or where they live or the customs in another place that aren't mine doesn't seem correct to me. But this was a very unique situation, where we had this trip scheduled for a very long time and my mother's illness was fast and deadly. And so that the first line was literally what people were saying when we were like, should we still go on this trip? Should we still go? You should still go. They all said. And so then that kind of enabled me to go into um, the piece, which, and my mom died like 8 years ago now, and, I'm still writing about her, and so the fact that this piece finally made it out there and I finally believed in it enough to get it out there and that you liked it really meant a lot to me. So thank you for that.
I did have a question for you, Donna. I saw in your bio that you have either founded a lit mag or you're in the process of coming on board to a lit mag, and then you also run a reading series. Um, we at Chestnut have done a lot of work on literary citizenship and encouraging people to kind of get out and be part of a community. Samira and Sharon and I, along with a couple of readers that we have on staff, actually did a couple of panels or presentations on it in the past year. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your places if you want to pump them up a little bit, and also like what that experience is like for you. Yeah.
Sure. Well, the reading series came first. And it really, I retired from 37 years of middle school teaching during lockdown, so on Zoom. Um, and I had always told myself when I retired, I wanted to do something, to be able to highlight other people in the creative community. Because I've had you know, such, I don't have an MFA, I didn't study poetry, right? So people have been very kind to me in terms of helping me find community. So the reading series came first because that was easy. All I had to do was get Zoom, and I think I lined up like the first two ones, like I called people and were like, will you be my first two like sets of guests so that somebody comes? Um, and I started doing it monthly. That was too much. I've backed off to every other now. Um, and I felt it was really important for me to, I mean, it's not a lot, but I do give a small stipend to each reader because we don't often get that in the poetry world. You are very kind to provide of something like that as well. Um, and it's really like for me, it's so much fun because it's a little bit of legwork to like get everybody's information and, promote it. But then I just get to sit there and hear wonderful poems, and host the Zoom. And it's a pretty easy way to give back. And this is, I think, so this is the start of the fifth year this year. The series is called 100 Pictures of Honey, after a line from my favorite Jack Gilbert poem, The Forgotten Dialect of the Heart. And you can find, I have a YouTube channel with all the recordings from the past 5 years. So you can go back and check those out if you're interested. And then a couple of years ago, my one of my best friends, who is also a poet and a memoirist, just texted me. He was like, "What do you think about starting a journal?" And I was like, "Okay." And it's just the two of us. And we just published, we've finished our first year in 2025. And we just published our second issue. We do quarterly, our second issue of our second year. Last Monday came out. We just do 5 poems and 2 pieces of prose, and they all have original visual art to accompany them. And we're going to open again on May 1st for submissions. So we'd love to see work from any of you. Unfortunately, we can't pay because it's just a 2-woman operation. But we'll make your stuff look really pretty and we will promote you. And that has been really lovely. And I think it's been really lovely to do it with, because we're such good friends and we have similar sensibilities in terms of what we like and what kind of knocks us out. We haven't had any occasions yet where one person has been like, this, yeah, this is a yes, and the other person's been like, no, right? We've had some back and forth about pieces that we weren't sure about, but we're pretty much in sync about the things we've accepted. And we've been very lucky to get really beautiful, beautiful work from people. So, oh, thank you. The layout is all Rachel. It's all my co-editor, Rachel Bunting, does all the web stuff because I'm a moron with that. So I'm more of a communications, emails kind of person. Um, but both, I think, we just take a lot of pleasure in being able to um, get all the beautiful things people send us and being able to present them to the world. There's so much more you get out of community when you give back and promote others and not just yourself. And I feel that your journal does that really well. So we hope that that's what we're doing with the journal, and I hope that that's what I'm doing with the series as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, absolutely. Um, I think we're coming towards the end of our time together. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? It's totally fine.
I just wanted to say everybody was so wonderful, and it actually made me feel better about my writing if I'm in such good company, because I really enjoyed everybody's work and I was really, really wowed by everybody.
I know that's something that I think everybody should feel very proud of. I know it's difficult. But I also wanted to briefly just say that both Transformer and Ego Death After a One Night Stand, every issue we do this feature called Tales from the Queue, where we ask the first reader for the piece to write a comment on what the piece made them feel, like their kind of critical, creative, emotional reactions. So I really encourage you to check those out. They live on the pages of the thing itself. So if you go to Transformer and Ego Death After a One Night Stand, Sati and Keely are both amazing readers. We really appreciate the work they do, and they've written just a lovely analysis of your piece. So yes, thank you so much. As always, we have a great issue. Please check the rest of it out. And we hope that you can come back and further be part of our Chestnut community. All right.